Okay, I've heard all of the stories, I've heard all of the rumors, but I researched my history and I'm ready to make a decision on where Billy the Kid is really buried. Joe here. Thanks for visiting Road Trip Joe, and thanks for watching. Okay, quick update on Lucille. All right, I was in Cambrai the last few weeks, and it hadn't been raining as much as the fog just kind of settled in and didn't leave, and fog can be very wet. So I did as much on Lucille as I could. I tore off the back end, I rebuilt the frame, and then I realized at some point I can't put new wood in there as much as I wanted to because it's just too wet. So I just kind of put temporary siding up and moved it to a little drier spot, which is my next spot, actually. Billy the Kid. Do you remember that name? I bet you a lot of kids today don't remember that name. Anyways, I grew up with Billy the Kid and the Hole in the Wall gang and Wyatt Earp and all of those people. But you know, there's always a lot of controversy that surrounds, how they lived their life, what they did, who they shot, who shot them, things of that nature. And in this case, if they even died. That's right. There's a lot of people that don't think Billy the Kid died when they said he did. This was all news to me, okay? It was all news to me, and it kind of intrigued me a little bit as to what really happened to Billy the Kid, because there are a lot of people that say he's not buried where they say he is. So, I'm going to make a decision here. You may not like it. Let's check it out. Lots of people think that Billy the Kid didn't die when they said he did. For those of you who don't keep up with this stuff, which is probably most of you, then here's the story. Billy the Kid was born Henry McCarty in New York City around 1859. His father died and his mother moved to Indiana with him and his brother Joseph. His mother remarried some guy named Antrim. This all happened in Indiana, and they moved west with the family, somewhere in Arizona, I think. So what happened? Well, his mom died when Henry was just 14. And without a mom, well, you kind of just go bad, I guess. And he did go bad. Billy the Kid became an outlaw. At least that's the long and short of it. He changed his name a few times, but mostly went by William Bonney. He was arrested for thieving when he was young, but had this ability to escape from tight situations, like jails. Seems he was very good at it. William Bonney killed his first man, a blacksmith, in 1877 at the age of 17. Then he got involved in the Lincoln County Wars in New Mexico. If you're not familiar with the Lincoln County Wars, then just watch John Wayne and Chisholm if you want more information. I doubt most of it's true, but you never know. That story is a little too long to tell, just like this one, I guess. Bonney shot some more people, was arrested, escaped, shot some more people, was arrested again, but escaped, and after making a deal with the territorial governor of New Mexico, he testified against another murderer, but got arrested again, but escaped. Then had a bounty put on his head by this same governor, and then he accidentally walked into this dark room with this sheriff, his friend actually, Pat Garrett, just sitting there waiting for him, and was shot. Dead. At least that's the official story. And normally that would be the end of the story. And until recently, that's all I knew about Billy the Kid. Mostly that he killed a few people, was in the Lincoln County Wars, and died very young at the hands of his friend, Sheriff Pat Garrett. But when I was in New Mexico recently, I went to a museum in Santa Fe and saw some letters William Bonney wrote the governor about getting pardons, and some other things I was not aware of. Bonney actually met with the governor once and struck a deal. At least he thought he struck a deal. But what was really new to me was that this guy I thought was buried in Fort Sumner, New Mexico, might not really be Billy the Kid. Seems he popped up 70 or so years later in Texas. Actually, he popped up in a bunch of places over the years with all these guys claiming to be Billy the Kid. At least an older version of the Kid. But there was this one guy that people are convinced was really the Kid. At least in Texas, they're convinced, not so much in New Mexico. In 1848, an old guy in Hicko, Texas named Brushy Bill popped up claiming to be Billy the Kid. The guy would have been 90 years old. So I went to my resident historian, my New Mexico friend Steve, and asked a simple question. Where is Billy the Kid buried? Fort Sumner, New Mexico, right? My friend, the historian, says Hicko, Texas. Oh, brother. My friend does like conspiracy, but he does know his history. And he's one of the few people in New Mexico that thinks Billy the Kid is buried in Texas. Go figure. Now, I'm leaving lots out, of course, but Billy the Kid did write the governor several times about getting a pardon. But this Governor Wallace put a bounty on him twice, so why would he issue a pardon? So Billy the Kid went on trial in April 1881 for killing a sheriff in Lincoln County Wars and was convicted and sentenced to hang. The judge told Bonnie at his trial that he was going to hang until he was dead, dead, dead. Bonnie's response was that this judge could go to hell, hell, hell. But Billy the Kid broke out again, killed another couple of deputies, and took off. So like I said, Sheriff Pat Garrett, his friend, tracked him down at another friend's home and shot him when he walked in. It was a dark bedroom, actually, which doesn't seem sporting. Afterwards, there were interviews, lots of people saw the body, and he was buried the next day in Fort Sumner, New Mexico, with a wooden marker on his grave. At least that's what history says. Afterwards, Garrett wrote a book called The Authentic Life of Billy the Kid that was published in 1882. He only sold a few copies, but the book is still a good reference for historians. Anyway, over time, the legend came out that Bonnie wasn't killed and that Garrett staged the whole thing. So over time, all of these guys started popping up and saying they were Billy the Kid, but the one in Hicko, Texas seems to be the most legit. They even opened a museum in Hicko called what else? The Billy the Kid Museum. Now, the grave at Fort Sumner got flooded in the early 1900s, and bodies were floating all over the place for a while, so who knows who's buried there. Typical, right? If it's not a fire, it's a flood, and sometimes history gets burned up or just floats away. That does make it convenient for conspiracy buffs. They have discussed doing DNA on this Brushy Bill guy, but seems there are some who would rather not see that happen and just want to perpetuate the conspiracy. Makes sense to me since they're collecting money at the museums. Why ruin a good thing? What has put some money in someone's pocket is the one authentic picture of William Bonney. The one you've seen a lot in this video, because it's the only one that's been authentic. Not sure if he's in the others you're seeing, but I like the picture, so just use your imagination. But there is only one picture that's ever been confirmed as Billy the Kid. And in 2011, businessman William Koch, yes, that Koch of the Koch brothers, paid $2.3 million for the original Pharaoh-type photo of Bonnie. One of Bonnie's friends kept it after he was killed, and it stayed in his family for generations, until they thought they could get some money for it. It's like 2 inches wide and 3 inches tall. So millions of dollars for a 2x3 picture. I wonder where Koch keeps it. There is another photo of the regulators who Billy the Kid fought with in the Lincoln County Wars, and some people claim he's in that one too, but the experts aren't sure. The regulators are all playing croquet. Croquet? In New Mexico in the 1880s? Really? But even though the experts say it's not him, we'll just pretend it is. So now what? After 140 years, people are still asking for a pardon for the kid? Yes, they are. The last one to turn him down was New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson in 2010. He cited historical ambiguity. No argument there. Anyway, the Fort Sumner grave that I've visited is still there, and even though it's kind of out of the way, it is history. There's a new stone memorial there with an iron fence around it. A new one because it seems lots of other markers and memorials have been stolen or vandalized over the years. So is Billy the Kid really buried there? I'd like to think so because I don't feel like going to Hicko, Texas to see Brushy Bill's grave, and I've already been to Fort Sumner. Of course, Fort Sumner also has a museum to Billy the Kid a few miles away. They have lots of stuff, but nothing to confirm he's really buried there. And what happened to Brushy Bill? Well, seems he died of a heart attack in 1950 walking down the streets of Hicko. But for $3.50, you can visit the Hicko Museum dedicated to Billy and see some really old stuff. They even have a stuffed head, or heads I should say, of a two-headed calf. Maybe I'll go to Hicko someday and check out the Billy the Kid chili cook-off. I like chili. But I think Billy's really decomposing in New Mexico myself. What do you think? That's all I got.
Some might say that I'm a loner, but I just call it being free. I am my heart's only owner, or at least I used to be. 'Cause now a wildfire is raging deep inside, and my heartstrings are pulling like the tide. And the match that drew a spark was a single stolen kiss. And if that ain't love, I don't know what is.
My name is Steve, and I'm a friend of Joe Smith, better known as Road Trip Joe. And he's asked me to look into the controversy surrounding Billy the Kid and Brushy Bill Roberts. There's always some controversy between whether or not Billy the Kid was actually gunned down by Pat Garrett in 1881 in Fort Sumner, or whether he actually escaped from there and ended up living in Hicko, Texas, going by the name Brushy Bill Roberts.
Steve here. I am in Lincoln, New Mexico. This is the site of the old Wortley Hotel where Robert Ollinger, he was a lawman, was eating lunch and he heard Billy the Kid shoot the guy that was guarding him, which we'll get there in a minute, and he unloaded both barrels of a shotgun on him right there. This is the Wortley Hotel. 1881, Pat Garrett was the proprietor. Billy the Kid shot Sheriff Pepin up there, and Bob Ollinger raced across the street, and Billy got Ollinger's own double-barrel shotgun and came running across the street as I am, and Billy the Kid gunned him down with both barrels.
But in 1949, a guy named Ollie Roberts, aka Brushy Bill Roberts, went to a lawyer and tried to get the lawyer to get him his pardon that was promised some 70 years prior to that. And the lawyer's name was Morrison, and he got with Governor Mabry at the time. And Governor Mabry didn't believe anything the guy said. Now, this is all according to things that I've read on the internet. Now, you can Google this stuff and find out the exact same stuff that I did. And according to a Park Service person I talked to the other day, they have documented proof that the scars on the body match those that they knew of Billy the Kid, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
This is one of the fine people that run the place here in Lincoln. What's your name?
Tiffany Owen.
Okay. Can we use this in
Sure.
the video?
You bet.
Okay, Tiffany, what exactly is it that you do here?
I am the instructional coordinator, which means I'm the education person. So when the school kids come on field trips or I go out and talk to the schools and I tell them about the Lincoln County War.
Well, you know, they say that Billy the Kid is buried in Fort Sumner, but then some people think he's buried in Hyco, Texas.
I know. When
What
those
is-
Hyco people come in, I just hand them a map and say, have a good time.
What do you think about that?
Our stance is that he was killed in Fort Sumner. There's quite a bit of documented evidence, interviews with people that knew him, and he was very well known in Fort Sumner, kind of the way he was here in Lincoln, who saw the body, bought the clothes that he was buried in, and saw him lowered into the ground. So there's quite a few testimonials from people that.
But they all love Billy the Kid around here.
Oh, yeah.
Pat Garrett, that was one of his friends.
Yeah, well, that might be one of those things that came from Hollywood.
Well, it's just like today. One day you're friends, the next day you're enemies.
Well, that's the truth.
This is the courtroom where Billy the Kid was sentenced to hang. It's a replica table where he and J.W. Bell used to sit and play cards. A big cast iron stove. And it is either this window or this window that Billy the Kid used Sheriff Ollinger's shotgun and emptied both barrels into him as he ran across the street right here.
The way to prove this would be to dig up both graves and take a DNA sample. Well, the nice folks in Fort Sumner, they're not going to let that happen. The people in Hyco, Texas, I don't know. I don't know if anybody really wants to know the truth. Sometimes legend is better. I've had a couple other videos that I've sent to Joe, and y'all can be the judge of whether or not Brushy Bill Roberts is actually Billy the Kid or not. I suggest you Google Brushy Bill Roberts and read a lot of that stuff. It's pretty interesting. So, off to work I go.